What's up, everyone? My name is Alan, founder and consultant at Fortnite Marketing, and welcome to day 15 of Braze-mas 2023. Before we get started, if you have any questions, whether you are currently using Braze or considering using Braze, please feel free to reach out. You can find these addresses and more in the YouTube description below. Today, we're going to actually spend more time talking about the specific trigger change custom attribute value. There are some additional important information that we didn't get to cover yesterday, so let's get started. So here we are on the attribute triggers Braze documentation, and there are two very important statements under the change custom attribute value section. Number one, for change attribute, the trigger is evaluated first, then the audience criteria. This differs from the default behavior of audience criteria evaluated first, then trigger. So let's talk about these two sentences briefly, starting with the second sentence. This differs from the default behavior of audience criteria evaluated first, then trigger. So we haven't quite gotten to our third page, our target audience page yet. But one thing to note is that even though this is the third page, which comes after the second page, Braze will evaluate the audience criteria before the trigger. For example, if you want to look for users who have never made a purchase and want to send them a thank you campaign on their very first purchase, then you target an audience who has made exactly 0 purchases. Your logical mind might want you to think that on page 2, I'm going to trigger my first purchase, and then on page 3, as a result, I would be at 1 purchase. So we want to target users who have made exactly 1 purchase. However, this is not the case. Braze evaluates audience first and then the trigger. So we are going to look for users who have made exactly 0 purchases and then wait for them to trigger this make any purchase trigger. And then we can send them a thank you campaign for their first purchase. However, going back to our first sentence from the documentation, for change attribute, the trigger is evaluated first, then the audience criteria. So it looks like there is one exception when using the change custom attribute value trigger. We evaluate the trigger before the audience. So page 2 before page 3. And then the second statement from the documentation says, to avoid a race condition, ensure the attribute used as the trigger is not the same as the attribute used to qualify your audience. You want to avoid using the same attribute for both the trigger and the target audience. For example, let's say I want to congratulate a user on their 10th viewed shoe page. So I set the trigger here, viewed shoe page, to the specific value of exactly 10. And then just so I can be extra safe, I add the same criteria on the audience page where I looked for viewed shoe page exactly 10. According to Braze, this could cause a race condition where 2 different data sources are racing against each other. For example, after the custom attribute viewed shoe page changes to 10 on page 2, Braze will then move on to page 3 and check that the user profile's view shoe page custom attribute is equal to 10. However, it's possible that this custom attribute viewed shoe page isn't quite updated fast enough on the user profile to equal exactly 10 before Braze's target audience evaluation happens. And that's what we call a race condition. So to avoid this scenario where our logic could fail only because the data wasn't updated fast enough, Braze recommends not using the same attribute in both the trigger and the audience. That's it for day 15. We will cover the remaining action-based triggers in our next video. If you have any questions, please share them in the comments. We're happy to help. If you learned something from this video, please subscribe for more awesome Braze videos in the future. Thank you for watching and see you next time.